Hello again, and welcome to another episode of 57% True. My name is Jason, your host. And believe it or not, I convinced this guy to do another episode with me. So I want to once again welcome my friend Will. Say hi.
Hello.
Very good. I said to say hi, not hello.
My apologies.
Take two. All right, so we were actually talking about social media and how we both hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And we also started finding out that we both had watched Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
Which I had mentioned that movie before. And again, you need to watch the movie if you haven't. And then you will kind of gain a better understanding of why people such as myself and Will are not big fans of social media. So, Social Dilemma, it's on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's actually really ingenious, and the reason why, you're like, well, of course it's a documentary, and of course they're going to talk, this and that about it. They're going to push an agenda. The deal with Social Dilemma is that it's not just random people talking about why they hate social media. It's not even talking about why they hate it. These are the actual people who built social media and talking about how it all went wrong.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying to me. So we'll kind of dive into a little bit. So we'll kind of talk about our hate of social media, and then we'll get into how this kind of helps solidify that. So what about social media in particular? Is there anything in particular that you really hate about it? Like, which ones, what about it did you like?
Yeah, so I actually kind of came to the conclusion that I don't like social media early on.
Yeah.
If you listen to the other episode where I was in it, you'll know that I was bullied online.
Yeah.
And a lot of that happened because of social media.
Mm-hmm.
Without social media, I don't know that I would have been bullied so hard.
Right, yeah.
So that's my own personal reason for disliking it. At the time, Facebook was taking off. It was still kind of young. And I would say that's probably the only one I really had a ton of experience with. I tried Twitter for like a day, and I just couldn't get used to it. There were some others. MySpace had already faded by then. But
MySpace.
Yeah. I never had an Instagram. Never had a Google, whatever they called theirs, for a while.
Yeah, what the hell was that? Google Plus or something like that?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah.
Circles or...
Yeah, they had... Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
It was horrible. Finally, Google did something wrong. So, yeah, my deal with social media is that there's a lot of people that I've grown up with that I've known for decades, or people that I've become really close to, and then I will go onto their social media accounts, and it's like, who is this person? And, they talk about how online you have, and I can never say this word right, so forgive me, anonymity. Close enough.
No, that's good.
I'll take it. But with social media, you're literally putting out who you are. I mean, you're putting pictures of yourself and your family and friends and what you had for lunch and where you're going and who you're doing it with. And so it's not anonymity anymore. This is who I am. You're broadcasting and advertising your brand, yourself. And there are people that I look at this and I'm like, is this really who you are? Like, have you been lying to me this whole time? Like, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me you didn't like garbanzo beans? I never would have made you have hummus. It just blows my mind. So, why do you think people? I have my own opinions, but one of yours. What do you think people think that it's okay to say and do the things that they do on social media? I mean, that they may or may not do in person.
My opinion is that people want to do that in reality too. people want to be able to broadcast their deepest parts of themselves, or maybe even things that they're insecure about for validation. For me, it all comes back to validation. We're looking for people to see our lives and be okay with it and acknowledge us.
And some people want to get paid for it. OnlyFans.
But I think the opposite is what happens. And instead of getting the validation you're looking for, you may get it here and there. You'll get a sprinkle of it, and you'll be like, "Ooh, that's good." Mm-hmm. But then when you don't get it anymore, you're suddenly questioning everything about yourself because that's what you've put out there.
Yep.
You know, maybe that picture wasn't good enough. Maybe that post was a little too spicy. Like, I mean, there's plenty of room for, especially in such a large group as the internet.
Oh yeah.
For people to not be okay with certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And you're never going to be in a room and agree with someone 100% on 100% of things.
Well, like, so Jess and I, we did some traveling because she was a traveling nurse for a while. And there was a lot of times where I was unemployed because she would take a job and those jobs only last 3 months. And then you're picking up and moving states away. Mm-hmm. And so it was hard for me to even find employment if I wanted it for such a short amount of time. So I would go on social media and I would see all these great things, you know, hey, just got this new dog today. Check out my new car. You know, I went here and did this and I hung out with all these people. And I really started getting depressed, like actually depressed. And I was just, because I'm like, man, they're doing all this great stuff. But then I started talking to, you know, someone and they were just like, do you really think they're going to put on social media? Man, I had the shittiest day, you know, mm-hmm. No, they're going to put their best face forward because they want, like you said, validation. They want to show off what they got or how great things are going, even if things aren't going well. And that validation will lift them up sometimes. So that was a struggle for me. And I stopped getting on social media for a short while during that because it was bringing me down. But yeah, like you said, like people want to do it in face-to-face. And I think that's really brought down a lot of people as far as, you know, now they're saying these things and now you don't want to talk to them in real life. I mean, I've got a couple friends like that myself. I've known literally for decades. And I'm like, if you're saying this way online, then this is how you actually feel. So I'm not going to really talk to you much anymore. It's not always political. I know it's what probably people are thinking. Oh, well, no. But on that same token, when you were like, when people get their validation, they're like, oh, hey, this is really cool. Well, then you start building yourself an echo chamber, whether you know you're doing it or not.
Yeah.
So you're only liking people who are agreeing with you. You're only following people who are agreeing with you. And that could be both good and bad. I mean, it could be detrimental to your own personal health and well-being.
Not only that, but if you watch The Social Dilemma, you'll see that echo chamber that you're building is just reinforced by the artificial intelligence programs that are looking for ways to keep you engaged.
So let's talk about the movie now that we kind of told everybody why we hate it. Also check us out on Facebook and Twitter, 57percenttrue.com. But so The Social Dilemma was it's a documentary. And I know a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes. Ugh, documentary. You don't even know you're watching a documentary. At least I didn't after the first couple minutes of it.
Yeah, they sort of also they put a little narrative in between the documentary parts. It keeps you entertained, but it also is very good at illustrating exactly what they're talking about when they're having the talking heads.
Yeah. And fun fact for anybody who's a big Psych fan, young Sean is one of the stars of that. Do you ever watch Psych?
Yeah, I have watched Psych. Who was he in the documentary?
He was the main kid. I can't think of his name in the movie, but he was the main kid.
I knew him from somewhere else. I couldn't pinpoint it, but
he's been in a couple other. Yeah, but as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my god, Sean. Yeah, so the little bits in the movie part of it, if you will, like there's some dramatization, but it's done on purpose, you know, to kind of illustrate what they talked about and to kind of drive the story forward and to give you examples, which I really liked. It's not just boring people talking about boring things. The most important part that whenever I talk about this movie, I always tell people this is not just some Joe Schmo off the street that's just like, the internet's stupid. It was much better when we had carrier pigeons. These were literally people who built these social media platforms. They were founders, managers, owners of these companies. And when they talk about how it was genius in the beginning, it really was. I mean, I myself, again, talking about traveling, that was the way I kept up with a lot of my friends and family. It was much easier than just texting them here and there or whatever. Now I could see pictures, I could see what they were doing and everything. It was cool. But then they even say, and they admit, that these AI things that they were using, these algorithms, took on a life of their own. And one of them even stated they don't even know how they work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They've literally, the Skynet, version 0.5 is where we're at. It took on a life of its own, and they said that it really started taking off like that when they learned how to monetize it.
Yeah.
Because these ads were being, hey, he looked at this picture for, 5 minutes or, 30 seconds. He must want a new car. Let's do it. Hey, we can actually listen into the things that they're typing in or the things that they're saying. And if you don't believe me, just give it a shot. Just talk about anything random and say it a couple of times and then go to your Facebook feed 5 minutes later. As an example, I was talking to my brother-in-law about getting new windows for the home. Never said anything about it before in my entire life. And he's like, you should check out Renewal by Andersen. They've got great windows through there. And I was like, you know what? I've seen their commercials. You're absolutely right. Okay. And then we went on. We talked about it 15 seconds, if that. We got home. I flipped on my Facebook. 5 things after I scroll down. Hey, check out Renewal by Andersen. Shut up. Tell me they're not listening to me.
Yeah. My story with that is I was in the car, long car ride or something. At the time, I didn't have any pets at all.
Yeah.
One of my friends started talking about getting a new kind of pet food for their dog. And I must have been on my phone or something, because when I got home that night, all of a sudden, ads for kibble. ads for the super organic version of dog food.
Sure.
I think it has blue in the title.
Blue, yeah. What is it? Blue Wilderness, Blue Mountain?
Yeah, something like that.
Blue something.
But I was like, funny. I don't have a pet. My friend has a pet. They talked about it, and now suddenly I'm getting these ads.
Well, and for people who say that, the phones aren't listening, for anybody who has a smartphone, how often do you say, hey Siri or hey Google?
Or Alexa,
and your phone magically
Bixby.
just beeps up.
Yeah.
It's not telepathy. It's listening to you, waiting for you to say these key phrases. And it's right there in the terms and conditions of these things, which no one ever reads. But it's in the terms and conditions stating that if you're going to use this product, and this is how they're going to use it. And it is to monetize these things. And that's how they monetize, is through ads.
Yeah. And you may be inclined to believe the developers when they say, oh, it's not designed to do that. But when they then turn around and say, we've lost control of it.
Yeah.
We don't know how it's working anymore. You can't really trust them at their word anymore if they're not the driving force behind what's happening. It's the machine learning.
Yeah.
It takes a mind of its own. It learns how to do things, and
which is a genius feat for all of humanity, that we can program and create something that can learn on its own. Mm-hmm. That is astounding. But look at what it can do.
We started as cavemen, okay? We had rocks and we had sticks.
We were excited when one of those rocks turned into a wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's literally taking a life of its own. And near the end of the movie, they ask every single person. There's probably 8, 9 people that they probably interview.
Yeah, about that.
Good amount. But they ask every single one of them, how do we change it?
Yeah.
And exactly this. For at least 5-10 seconds, each person just kind of stares off that 1,000-yard stare and is like, how do we? And finally someone comes up and says, I think the only way that we could was to scrap it and start new. They don't even know how to kill the creation they made.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. And as I mentioned before, I couldn't imagine growing up with it, because if I was bullied at school and then would get home and then be bullied even some more, good God, the mental stress. And there are actually doctors and people that are out there that are saying, are you feeling stressed with everything that's going on? One of the first things they tell you, get off social media.
Yeah, turn off the devices.
Yep. I mean, watch TV. For the love of God, don't watch the news. But, watch TV, decompress, read a book, go play with the dog, run out in the street, preferably when there's no traffic. But yeah, anything. But that's one of the first things I'll tell you, is to turn off your social media. And I did it once for a month, just as a trial.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually extended it out for 2 without even thinking.
Yeah. So you might be listening and thinking, turn off social media. Yeah, that's so easy. That it's not going to do anything. You'd be surprised. The way it's designed now to keep you in it. It's very hard to look away. What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
Yep.
You turn to your nightstand or whatever you have in your room, wherever your phone is, and you look to see if you have any notifications, or you pull up your news app, or you pull up your social media or Reddit or what have you to see what's new, what's going on. Did I get anything? Is someone into me today? Do I have something to share?
Right. You don't even go to the news.
You just woke up, my friend.
Right.
Write in a dream journal.
Drink a glass of water.
Yeah, drink a glass of water. Make your bed. Get dressed.
So I actually made notes on this a long time ago. So, hey, I get to use the notes. As an example of just the people that we're talking about. So Tristan Harris, who actually worked for Google, was a co-founder of a company called Center for Humane Technology. He's pretty much the driving force of the whole deal, which I really enjoyed him. Tim Kendall was a former executive of Facebook, former president of Pinterest, and is currently the CEO of Moment. He was the president of monetization for Facebook. He was the one that came up with the ad model.
Yep.
So Tim Kendall is where we're going back in time and taking out, like in Terminator. Roger McNamee was a Facebook investor. Asa Raskin worked for Mozilla Firefox, invented Infinite Scroll. There was Justin Rosenstein, who was a former engineer for Facebook and Google. Jeff Siebert was a former executive of Twitter. Sandy Paratis, Facebook former operations manager. Sean Parker was a Facebook former president. So again, these are people. It's not just like some Joe Schmo that was clickety-clacking behind the keyboard. These were the people who actually came up with this stuff and made it actually happen. So, some stats that you and I can talk about, especially since we kind of leaned toward this in our last episode, we talked, they found that in 2011, which was when social media started really taking off, that there was huge jumps in people doing self-harm. Not necessarily suicide, but we'll get to that one in a minute. Self-harm in 2011 jumped 62% for teen girls and up 189% for preteens. Which that was around the same time you were going through your issues, right? Suicide was up 70% for teen girls and 151% for preteen girls.
And I'll get real personal. During that time, I was one of the people who tried to commit suicide. I have a couple attempts in my past. And, I can't say it's not because of social media.
Right. Obviously, I'm sure there were other factors in there, but that had to have been. Because like we've said a couple times now, you can't escape it.
It keeps you in there.
It's so dumb.
I mean, how many times have you been on YouTube and you're not really doing anything, but oh look, there's a suggested video. There's another one. What happened to those 3 hours? It's like suddenly I've just spent 3 hours doing what? And what did I learn?
Years ago, it was after my mom passed. I had no one. I'm an only child. And there would be times where I would just hop online to try to kill some time, and I would go down a YouTube rabbit hole and hours. Legitimately, I would start out on that, and I would be watching and looking whatever, and I would look up and the sun would be down.
Now, I don't hate YouTube. I just want to clarify. There are aspects to social media that can be good if they're used correctly. YouTube is a great resource if you're trying to learn a new skill. There's lots of masters who will put out their content and tutorials, and it's great. If you're looking for someone to relate to, or if you're into gaming and you like to watch someone else play a game, it's a great way to be entertained. It's just the key is moderation.
Two things on that. One, when you're talking about good, I talked about at the end of another episode, it was called, there's a guy who started a channel called Dad, How Do I? And this was a guy who grew up without a father, and he started his own YouTube channel to show kids who might not know how to do quote unquote simple things like tie a tie, change a tire. I mean, that brilliant use of media and social media. They even give an example in the movie Social Dilemma about how there was a person who was in need of a kidney transplant and found one across the country just by posting something on social media and got shared. I mean, this guy's life was literally saved by social media. So yes, it can be used for good. Of course, it's just like anything else. There's good and bad, but it just tends to be crazy bad, especially when you start getting politics involved. There is a book out by someone else who was in the movie called, the gentleman's name was Jaron Lanier. He wrote a book called 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now. And one of the things that he talks about is that when you get started, it's almost like a drug. It's a gradual, slight, imperceptible change in your own behavior. And that perception is the product. Mm-hmm. That's how they snag you. It's how they get you. And the old 80s, 90s joke, the first one's free, the next one's going to cost you. Mm-hmm. Same freaking thing. And it's costing you. You just don't know that it's costing you. The monetization part of it, too, is that when Facebook and a lot of these other social media platforms were first coming out, they put them on... the different Play stores, Apple iTunes stores, all this. And they put them out there for $6. One-time fee. That was it. $6. You own this app. It's not a monthly thing. You change phones. You don't have to... $6. And people said no. And you might be out there thinking, well, yeah, why would I pay $6 for something that's free? This is why you pay for something instead of getting it for free. Because they're not just going to do something out of the kindness of their heart and be like, okay, here you go. Go talk to your friends. They're going to make money off it. That's what the whole point of it is. And the way they found to do it was through this ad system and this ad process. And now because of that, it helps build that echo chamber that you already started. And these ads are pinpointing things. And they were talking about, I don't know if this was on the movie. It might have been, because I think you brought it up when we were off mic. But how social media like that has actually helped separate.
Yeah. Increased, I think what I said was increased polarization.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that movie, they do actually show graphs of people who, said that they were far left or far right, or they were Democrat, they were Republican, they were whatever. And you watch these graphs and like they animate it so that way you can see the changes. And literally around that 2011, all of a sudden these changes are drastic. Mm-hmm. And not just in size, but in speed, where all of a sudden you just see like the Red Sea parting, and it is just, you are either left or right. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. And there are people out there that I didn't believe this at first, but being more conservative, obviously my Facebook feed is going to be more conservative, whether I want it to be or not, because I try really hard to see both sides of things. I really do. But when you have social media throwing it in your face and it's slanted, it's not even slanted, it's just there.
Yeah, with social media, even if you're looking for something that's the other side, the other point of view, you're still going to find, because of the way it works, things that are biased.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say was you try to look at this other stuff and you can't almost. There are people that I'm like, how do you not know X just happened? I've seen this on like 6 other people's timelines. Mm-hmm. I've seen ads showing up that, how have you not seen this? And you're like, well, I don't see that on my feed. And you don't see it on your feed because it's the opposite of the way that I was seeing this. And so it just helps drive that nail in there even more. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And it might sound drastic, but when we watched this movie together, the minute that movie was over, Jess deleted every single one of her social media.
I felt that urge.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I didn't touch it for probably 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. I really didn't. I didn't delete it. And the main reason is because I do post, podcast stuff on
the good media. Parts of
right.
social media. I mean, it's so ingrained in our society.
Yeah.
Not even just U.S. society. The world is so involved in social media now. It's hard to function as just a successful adult without some form of social media. Mm-hmm. If don't let that deter you from deleting all of it if you can.
Sure.
Go for it.
Yeah.
But if you have to keep it, just put some checks and balances in place.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, you have to monitor it yourself. No one else is going to do it for you, just like practically anything else in life. So, yeah, monitor it. Be aware, especially if you start feeling a certain way that you've never felt before, or you start feeling like saying things that you would never say, or doing things, really start checking yourself, and don't just think, oh, it's personal growth. Really look at yourself and make sure it's personal growth and not, brain manipulation.
Yeah.
The other part of that is when Jess did remove her social media. Now, she listens to music a lot. And a lot of times it'll be Spotify. She would listen to Spotify, and all of a sudden, every single ad was for Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
She got text messages from Facebook saying, hey, haven't been on for a minute. So-and-so just updated their status. Click here to check it. And she's like, how did they get my phone number? Well, you put it in there as a verification, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a protection. And now they're using it to text you. Hey, they didn't do that. And they even dramatized that in the movie, which I thought was really cool, because when you watch it, you hear these people talking about it, you're like, but then you see them do it in the movie, you're like, oh shit,
please,
that's scary.
Do not let us talking about it be your excuse for not watching this movie.
We are two jack wagons in a home studio, all right?
You have got to watch it.
As awesome as we are, let's be honest, we certainly are not going to be, your end-all be-all, but please watch the movie.
I'd love for you to make your own mind up on this.
Yeah, exactly. You could watch it and be like, yeah, I'm totally fine. Give me my ad. Shut up. That's fine. Do it. But goodness gracious, I would think that you would want to know everything about something that is that ingrained in your daily life.
Yeah. And
I'll be honest, when I watched it, it wasn't my intention to watch it. I was bored, and I saw Social Dilemma, and they're like, this is why, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be stupid. 5 minutes later, I'm like, they did what?
Yeah. Oh, great. Someone else is going to tell me what opinion I should have. But they really just do lay out facts.
They do, and that is key. And again, those facts aren't coming from, some jackass. It's these people who help build them. And yeah, they don't lead you down a path and tell you this is why it's evil. In fact, in the end of it, they tell you some great things happen, like the kidney story and stuff. So they're not telling you, that this is evil, stop using it. It's really just, this is what happens. If you're okay with it, go for it. If not, here's what you can do.
And the big part that I don't think we've gone over too much is that they're looking to take action to fix it. They're asking themselves, how do we get this back to a healthy standard?
Yes.
So it's not just a doomsday documentary either, because we know there are plenty of those.
Yeah. And we're living it. So yeah, a couple things too that of how it mentally grabs you. Because like we were saying, you wake up, that's the first thing you check.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even go to the news. You don't go to the weather. Why would you go to the weather? Go to Facebook. I'm sure someone will talk about, oh my God, it's snowing again, right? So what they use is different tricks. One of them was called positive intermittent reinforcement. Think about when you are on Facebook and you're scrolling down through, and then eventually you're like, oh, I've already seen this feed.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you hit the back button? Does it exit out of the application?
Of course not.
What's it do?
Takes you right back up to the top of the feed.
Right back to the beginning. Refresh, all new scenes, all new everything. Oh, look at that. It's just like when you're playing Candy Crush. And that's how Candy Crush gets you, right? Because you have all these great big, sweet, excellent, blah, blah, blah. And then you win the thing, and it's like, oh, wow, it's pretty, it's colorful. I just moved up to this next level on the stupid map that literally means nothing on this game. But you see a map, and you're like, haha, I just got up another spot. It's the same way this works. It's like slot machines in Vegas. That you don't know when you'll get it, but you know you're going to get it. It's designed that way. Photo tagging. So, anytime you tag someone in a photo, you get an alert. Hey, so-and-so just put you in this picture. Of course you're going to look. Why wouldn't you want to see yourself in a picture? Because you're either thinking, my hair looked really good that day. Or you're thinking, all right, what the hell was I doing at that party? And do I remember this, right? So of course you're going to look. And then when you're on there, you're going to see more ads. And it just keeps going. So that's just a couple ways of how they get you. And they even state in the movie, and again, we might be talking about things that are in the movie. This is just scratching the surface. Please watch it. I'm not telling you the entire movie. Plus, it's not like this is Lord of the Rings or anything. You're going to watch it. But one of the things that they talked about was growth hacking. Hack psychology so that way they can get more connections and engagement. So example, when they first were talking about it, when they were building Facebook, they put it out there and said, hey, do what you can to grow this as fast as you possibly can. And their goal was to have everyone get 7 friends within 10 days. Think back to when you created your Facebook account. What's the very first thing that it says? Hey, here's some people you might know.
Or invite your friends.
Invite your friends. Upload. Yeah. Connect your contact list. Mm-hmm. And see if they want to join. Right? Terrifyingly enough, a friend of mine hates social media even more than I do. But he got on Facebook because he wanted to check out some things that were going on with his friends. But he just didn't want to get into the rigmarole. He put in a fake name, but he put in his actual hometown. Not where he was, living at the time, but he put in his hometown, put in a fake name. And at the end of it, it said, hey, here's some people you might know. And they were legitimately people that he knew. Mm-hmm. So it had to have gone off of either GPS, some sort of input. And I mean, he wasn't necessarily doing it to trick the system, but he put in as little information as he could, including a fake name. Mm-hmm. And it still was like, here's people that you may know.
Scary.
The algorithms are after us. Please know that this, again, isn't trying to terrify anyone. But just like anything with money, their goal is to try to keep you engaged. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do, which is why they advertise as much as possible. They talk about growing with their friends. They talk about, adding this and that and the other. Hell, I've been a member of Facebook since, when was my divorce? 2009? Yeah, 2009. And I still get things on there saying, here's people you may know. And they make it seem like it's a good thing, Hey, we're just trying to connect you to your friends, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No, you're not.
We all got on Facebook and we all said, yes, this is a great way. I can finally keep in touch with everyone I know. We never asked ourselves, should we do that? I mean, maybe there's a reason we don't talk to everyone we know every single day.
Exactly. Which is kind of funny that you say that too, because when I first started the old podcast, if you guys ever want to listen to that, it's called The Rest of Us Podcast. Good luck trying to find it. That's why I changed the damn name. But it's out there. But we
The Rest of Us dash pod, the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the way I had to find it.
Really?
If you're looking for it, yeah.
Oh, well,
The Rest of Us dash or hyphen the rest of the podcast. Sorry. The Rest of Us dash the podcast.
There we go. And this is why I'm hiring Will as my hype person. Wait, what was it? No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's things like, do we have the power to do it? Yeah. Should we? But people listen to the old podcasts especially, and they would come to me and say, man, it's really nice to hear just genuine conversation. And I'm like, what do you mean nice to hear? I'm like, well, you get on social media and it's just people fighting all the time, or, I'll make comments and they'll comment back. It's not. I'm like, they're absolutely right. You don't talk anymore. Mm-hmm. In fact, my throat is starting to get dry because this is the most I've talked in 2 weeks. So yeah, people don't even know how to have conversations anymore. They just know, well, I see this and I like it. Okay, I'm going to put a little heart next to it. I see this and I hate it. Well, I'm going to tell you how much of a douche you are.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to keep scrolling because that's going to give me my little rabbit pellet that'll keep me going.
And that's before you even start talking about the way that they use your data to basically sell you. They're selling your information to ad producers.
Yep.
To these corporations. And where's your cut of that?
Yeah.
As your information. And this isn't really talked about in the movie, the documentary, but personally, I think it's time we get some legislation, some regulation on social media and tech companies, because if someone's taking information about me and they're selling that, I want a cut of that. Where's my check?
Right. And that's the thing is everybody's like, oh, it sucks. Oh, this is stupid. I can't believe they do that. Blah, blah, blah. You're the one that hit the accept button.
And we all do it.
We all do it. We're guilty of it. And it's all because we wanted it for free. If we just would have spent $6 a few years ago, things would have been different. But, that's how it goes. Hindsight's 2020. That was legitimate last year. Ugh. So I'm going to give a story that is in the movie, and you can equate it to whatever you want. If you want to move on, we don't have to converse about it. But this was in the movie. I always say the name of this country wrong, but I think it's called Myanmar. Myanmar. So what the country did, a lot of the government, they would actually buy a phone, they would create a Facebook account. They would think that they were creating, that it was the internet. They would give these people accounts. They would give them phones, and they thought that it was the internet, but it was actually giving the military the ability to manipulate public opinion. And it helped incite violence against a group of Muslims. There were mass killings, rapings, burning of villages. Over 700,000 people had to evacuate. And democracy in that country was lost in 6 months. If you are following life in America, and I'm not going to get into this, I'm not going to pontificate, I'm not going to say the end is nigh, I'm not wearing my sandwich board out on the street corner screaming at the birds and the trees. Everybody thinks that America is untouchable. Everyone thinks that America is, so powerful that we can't be touched. If you have any idea how many different things are out there against us, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, I'm not like, the aliens are working with the Russians, but everybody wants to see the top tumble. And whether you love this country or not, I do. Whether you love this country or not, you have to understand that there are outside forces all over the place working against us in many different ways. Those we know, those we don't, and those we chalk up to, you're just a crazy bastard. If it can happen that fast in a small country that already isn't as technologically advanced as us, this is where I have night sweats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying anything about the change of the guard with Trump and Biden. I'm not saying anything against Republican and Democrat. But I am saying that all of this stuff needs to be used correctly. And we need to be careful about what we're saying and doing. When we talked about polarization, I will get a little political. I was kind of trying not to. Mostly because my old one was so political, I got tired of it myself. But here's the thing that you and I can fight about if you want. We talk about polarizing. And again, when you watch those graphs and how everything just slides to the sides and there's hardly any middle. What frustrates me is I understand that if people don't have the same opinion as you and you want to argue about it, okay, fine. As long as it's done in a correct way, you should have proper discourse, not just you're an idiot. But it really should be the people versus the government at this point. In my opinion. If you agree, sweet. If you don't, that's fine. We can talk about it or we can move on. But that's a big thing for me right now.
You're saying it should be the people against the government versus the people against the people?
Yes.
Yeah. We are... the root of the problem is, because of social media, no one knows what the actual truth is about anything. Pick anything that's happened in the last 5 years, and there are two sides to that story. Sure. There is never a consensus with the general public. Sure, you can get a consensus with scientists, you can get a consensus with religious leaders, you can get a consensus with Democratic or Republican parties. Between two lay people, you're never going to get a consensus. Global warming, the pandemic, literally anything. Emissions, electric cars, 5G. I mean,
5G.
Literally anything. The Earth being round. You could pick anything.
Birds aren't real.
5 years. Exactly. God. I think that's in your intro. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all being fueled because no one can actually come back to a source of truth. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own version of the facts, and if you think you're operating from the truth, there's nothing to say otherwise to you. You've seen your quote unquote truth. You know you're right. Problem is you may not actually be looking at the truth.
Yeah. And what's terrifying about that is we're seeing countries who have gone through things similarly, and they'll be saying things anecdotally they'll be saying things flat out. But I mean, I have a friend in Russia who barely speaks any English. Dmitry, if you're listening, Zdravstvuyte. That's literally the only word that I know other than Do Svidaniya. Hello and goodbye. But he even said, what the hell is going on over there? You know, he's like, if this keeps going, you're going to be like Russia in the 1970s. And that's terrifying. There have been people in Cuba that have said, don't you realize that this is what happened? They put people against people. And that was when a regime happened. There was another guy in Britain who was like, you know, the rest of the world is just loving watching you guys fight yourselves when you're really not fighting the right enemy. The world sees what we're doing. And we don't see what the world does because we're arrogant Americans. Fuck you, French. Who gives a shit? You know, I mean, but that's legitimately the world watches us, whether you believe it or not. And these people are like, you got to get your shit together. I mean, years ago, there was one of the, I can never remember if it's the president of Iran, whatever, the ruler of Iran, was upset because Obama had said something to them, you know, about how to do this and that and the other. And the president of Iran even said, you really need to get your own house in order before you start telling me what to do. And he's not wrong. And it's not with Obama. It's been with the last 30 years at least. We're too worried about meddling with everything else, and yet we're letting our own house burn.
Yeah, we're blind to it because we're in it.
Exactly. Yep. And that's why when people start talking about Republicans, Democrats, they're all crooked. And that's why, I mean, I lean libertarian only because in ideology, I like things a little more conservative. And I also want to let you do whatever you want to do. As long as you're not coming into my house, you know, raping my dog, I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. But we are losing sight of that where, you know, when both sides talk about unity, it's not unity, it's conformity. You know, we want you to be conservative and let go of your devilish ways. Well, we want you to be more liberal so that way you'll stop having a stick in your ass. You know, I mean, that's not unity, that's conformity. Unity would be libertarianism on the surface. There's some crazy fucking libertarians out there, believe me. It really should be people against the government. Now, am I saying that there should be an uprising against? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that people have forgotten that those people work for us.
Yeah.
We don't work for them.
There's this weird thing that's happened where people are idolizing their figurehead.
Yeah.
And that's not at all how it's supposed to be. That person, your taxes that come out of your paycheck, that is your money that is going to the government, that's paying someone for a service.
Yeah.
The politician is not well, I mean, in some cases they have been celebrities, but they are not a source of entertainment for you. They're there to do a job. And we just have completely forgotten that.
This isn't reality TV. This is reality.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're so conditioned for entertainment that I think we definitely have just lost sight of.
Oh, yeah.
They're actually there to do something.
So on my Facebook feed, I can't tell you how many people were saying, you know, this past election that, you know, the time to change is now, and, you know, this is when we need to change, and if we need to, you know, get all these people out and get, you know, new blood in and this and that. This past election would have been the absolute perfect time. And I advertised this on every single one of my social media. Every single seat
was up for grabs.
Yeah. In the Senate, and I think, or was it the House? One of the sides, every single seat was up. And the other one was like a 65% majority were up. That was legitimately the best time to have completely changed, out with the old, in with the new. And what happened? Nothing.
Yep. I know there are a lot of people that wish we had more than just two options.
Yes.
For parties. That's how you do it.
Yes.
You vote in your third party.
Right.
But this is an opinion of mine, is we should make, I during the Democratic primaries, I was really interested in Andrew Yang as a candidate. I liked a lot of his ideas. I didn't idolize him.
Right.
He wasn't the next God King. He was just a guy with good ideas, and I wanted him to perform that service. But one of his ideas was to make tax day a holiday.
Yeah,
give people the day off, give them the resources to do what they need to do, and same with election day. Like, educate the people about their local elections and help them know who's what party and what their issues are and what they're going to be fighting for. I think if we had a whole day dedicated to that, and if the media got on board and they really hyped it up, like I saw a lot of media, both in social media and on TV and radio, about voting. Whether whose narrative that was, I don't know, but I don't think it's a bad thing to say vote. But yeah, just if we could get media on board to help educate us, it shouldn't be their job, but
Here's the thing. So, two things. I know that a lot of that rock the vote started around the Gen X time, like the late 80s, early 90s, because my generation was just like, bleh. We weren't lazy. We just didn't care.
Yeah, it was apathy.
Yeah, and so they did. They started, like MTV Rock the Vote and everything was trying to get the youth to vote, because it's like, this is your given right, and there are people in the world that are dying to have what you're doing, but instead you'd rather listen to Nirvana with your Doc Martens on. And so I'm glad that it continues, and honestly, I was surprised just because of how the media slants everything. And I'm not talking about just one way. I mean, everything has a slant. It was nice to see that part of it was legitimately, neutral. I felt. I didn't feel anybody was like, come vote for the Democrats or else, blah, 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 or come do this. It was literally just go vote.
Yeah.
And I like
here's where your voting centers are. I was on, what one was it? I think maybe Facebook, because I reactivated it so I could use the marketplace to get a new couch, but it's deactivated again.
Yes.
But one of the first things I saw when I got back on there was it's time to vote. Here's the locations for near you. I was like, wow, that's unexpected.
I know. Well, and I even did my part. I posted all this stuff on my Facebook. I did my podcast and was just like, just go vote, and then just do it. Some people argue that that's stupid, that you shouldn't just go vote, that you should know, but at the same time, it should be kind of known that you don't just go in and start flicking buttons. I mean, when we say go vote, learn about these people that you're actually voting for. No one's going to hold your hand through it. But when we're talking about media and how used to, when I was a kid, back when TV was new, you watched the news and it was impartial.
Yeah.
They would tell you, this happened, this is who said this is who said that, and then they would move on. And it was to the point where some people may not know the name, younger folks may not know the name Dan Rather. Have you heard of Dan Rather?
I've heard of him, yeah.
Okay. That's good.
I know the name. I don't know what he's famous for.
Right, yeah. I think Jess was the same way. She's like, wait, who? Anyway, so Dan Rather was the head of the CBS Evening News, was the head of it for years. And he learned of a story, did not ensure that his source was 100% correct. Ran the story. It came back and it bit him in the ass because people were like, that's not even legitimate. This isn't real. This isn't whatever. He was so guilty about it. And so whatever, he actually resigned his position. Now, this man was a reporter since he was in college. Mm-hmm. And he was in probably his late 50s, early 60s at this point. This was his life. This is who he was. And he took something that he didn't know 100% on, it bit him on the ass, and he was like, all right, you got me. I can't do this anymore. I respect journalism so much, I'm leaving. Do you see anything remotely close to that now?
No.
They don't give a shit.
In fact, I haven't seen the news probably in the last decade where it hasn't been, here's a spin of what happened.
Yep.
Here's 13 different people who are going to give their opinion, and we're going to sprinkle ads through all of it. and you're going to be mostly watching ads.
Yeah.
But then you're going to watch opinions and not actual happenings.
Right. Exactly. So there's a new thing out there. It's called Join 1440. It is legitimately the closest thing I've seen to anything from when I was a kid. There is literally no spin. It is the news as I know it. The only crappy part is, I think it's because they're fairly new. They have 500,000 subscribers or whatever. It's absolutely free. Join1440.com. And it's sent to your email every day, Monday through Friday. And it tells you the top stories, what happened, and then it gives you links to other things as well as far as where they got their information. But when you read it, you don't get angry. You don't, well, they're talking shit about Biden, those sons of bitches, or I can't believe they called Trump that. I'm going to hop in my Ford F-150 and kick someone's ass. No, I mean, it's literally just, hey, this is what happened. This is how it transpired. This is whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, I could read this all day long.
Yeah.
And it sucks that it's just an email and it's like a 5-minute read. I'd like to have my entire news like that again.
Mm-hmm.
So nice. I hate the media.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says on his podcast.
We've started talking about this by talking about the social dilemma, but it really is, it's more than just social media because, like we said, and like the documentary says, it's a slight imperceptible change to your behavior. The entire society has now had this slight imperceptible change, either one way or the other, in multiple different areas. I mean, there's all kinds of radical groups now. I mean, they're all on different sides. I mean, you got QAnon, you got Antifa, you got the ISIS people. I just read there was a U.S. soldier that was leaking information to an undercover FBI agent about, because he thought he was with ISIS and he was trying to leak information to ISIS.
Wow.
I mean, the people who are protecting us, this affects everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You're not immune to it. I mean, because now the society you live in has been affected. So we all have to just be really vigilant.
So to kind of wrap it up, because this was supposed to be a short episode, and it's been 50 minutes long. To wrap it up real quick, we definitely need regulating.
Mm-hmm.
We need regulating on it. And maybe not the entire internet, but we need regulating on social media. And whether you agree or not, okay, I'm just going to say this, whether you agree or not, having the president of the United States, regardless if it was Trump, Biden, or JFK, to have them silenced on social media is an outrage, to the point where the Mexican president has actually gone out and is working with other countries in order to get social media regulated worldwide. They've already got Germany, which Germans get things done, the French, and there's a couple other countries that they named by name that are already working together to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Especially when you can't. I hate hypocrisy. I hate it. When you have other world leaders that are out there talking about death to this and doing this and that, and then you cut off another person. I don't like it, and I'm not a Trump supporter. I mean, it's not fair. It's not right. It's just like if they were to silence Biden. Listen, I'll read gibberish all day long. Okay.
Yeah. What's worse to me is that has become the way that they talk to the American people, is through social media. Yeah. There needs to be something else.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, when Obama started tweeting a lot, I was shocked. I was like, I understand he's probably trying to, get to the youth kind of vote or whatever. But
it is the quickest way to tell people uncensored how you're feeling, which is fine. But you're the president.
Exactly.
Or you're a social servant. I'm expecting you to be professional and to have what you're saying vetted and really thought out, not your gut reaction to things.
Exactly. You were exactly
Sorry,
right.
Tangent.
No. Again, we live on tangents. So to finish it up real quick, ways to protect yourself. If you don't want to watch the movie, we really think you should. But if you don't want to, just real quick. Number one, remove Google. As we said, if you just say, hey, Google, it pops right up. In fact, my phone just did it because I just said it and is typing out everything I'm saying. There are different options out there. There's one called DuckDuckGo, like Duck, Duck, Goose, but DuckDuckGo, or Quant, that is QWANT. Both of those are search engines that work very well. They do not save your information. They don't sell your information. It's totally fine. Go to your phone and turn off notifications. Do you know how many times when I had notifications on, Facebook would ding me? Mm-hmm. So-and-so posted this, so-and-so blah, blah, blah. And it's just your rabbit pellet getting you right back into it. Turn off your notifications. I turn mine off. I check Facebook maybe twice a day.
Mine are off, and I'm still annoyed at the notifications that I get. Like, I get the bare minimum now, and I'm still like, oh my god, can I turn that one off too?
Exactly.
No, it's my sister trying to tell me she's okay.
Never accept recommendations given on YouTube, Facebook, etc. So if you're ever scrolling through and it's like, sponsored ad for, cushy pillows, and you're like, hey, I like cushy pillows, don't click on it. Just go to your web browser and search cushy pillows, because the minute you click on that link, now all of a sudden you're going to get everything else and you're just buying
feeding
into it.
the AI beast.
Indeed. Chrome extensions, if you use Google Chrome. Chrome extensions can keep notifications away from you. You can actually Google that, and that will keep that away for it. Or, I'm sorry, you can DuckDuckGo it. See, it's part of our freaking... Number one, all in bold, fact check your damn self. Stop relying on fact checkers, because guess what? Fact checkers are paid too. Mm-hmm. And they're going to give the opinion of the people that are paying them. Another thing to give you an idea, the people that were on that thing do not even give devices to their own kids.
Yeah.
They created it, and they're keeping it away from their own kids. Mm-hmm. So let that sink in a little bit. Thanks for listening to me ramble for a little bit. Thanks again to Will for coming out. Check us out on 57percenttrue.com. Make sure you spell out that % sign, because if you don't, Biden and Trump will show up to your birthday party. And check us out on social media, after we just bitched about social media, but it's kind of funny. At 57percenttrue on both Facebook and Twitter. Check us out on Patreon. Drop us a couple bucks. We'd appreciate it. And first person to give us $10 per month is going to get a lovely prize. It might just be Will giving you a birthday cake. You don't know. So any other final words on it?
Check yourself
before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
If you don't vote, it's like if you don't use it, you lose it. So I encourage everybody to vote in their local elections. And I hope you feel good today. I hope you have some positive stuff in your life happen.
Have some positive. That's a good idea. Drink a glass of water. All right. Thanks for listening. Again, my name is Jason. Give me a friggin' catchphrase.